I do have 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. I noticed as we rolled in here, it appears Mr. Coffin, I not heard from him, but it's not present with us. That's the only one I'm missing. Maybe he'll come in shortly. I haven't heard from him. If you will, take a few minutes to review the meeting minutes. If you will, there's a quick change I found on the agenda. That January 16th should be January 22nd. The agenda does reflect that correctly. I'm sorry, the minutes do reflect that correctly. Mr. Ford makes a motion to approve the minutes as written. Do I hear a second? Second. Got a second there as well. Any discussion before we vote on that? All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, making them the final part of our record, please let me know by stating aye. Aye. Any nays? It does pass. If you will, you have your trustees' cash balance statement, from, this is your January, of course, it runs a month behind on that part, or roughly.
I think she is depositing you. I'll double check.
Pretty much sure. Just making a quick mention there on that, one new interest rate piece that came on about. Was that the end of November, 1st January? End of November, I think it was the couple of new interest loans. We're gonna make sure those are being deposited into 151, where that deposit's going. So we'll have that for you for the next meeting. That was the way that motion was written, that the interest from that money goes into 151, which is debt service. Make sure, I know sometimes speaking numbers, 151 is debt service. As you're looking at, cash balance, any discussion there on cash balance, which is your trial balance really? If not, we'll move on, in. Your next page is your comparison. As of this month, what we're in, which you should be roughly 58%, as of this point. And that won't reflect property tax, which we know was just finished due, this is up through January, so that property tax will come in at a different, on our next month, you'll see that difference. Any discussion there on page 6? If not, we'll move on to page 7, which we're starting to look to 101. And this is your revenues of 101. 6. Page 7, page 8, and the top part of page 9 are revenues. Mr. Ford.
44, investment income. It's brings us behind, so what do you got on that? CDs,
Yep.
Yeah, if you were, we discussed that one at times, it's been ticking up each time. Of course, our interest rate is much better right now, than we've had in the past. So that investment income is definitely ticking up.
$44.99. What is our total revenues?
So that includes, police report fees. It also includes park rentals, community center rentals, pool rentals, and, some minor donations.
Thank you.
Any other questions in revenues? Well, if we notice that total revenues there may be down just a little bit, 53% instead of 50, and we're looking at about 58, but as we mentioned, property tax will show up on the next months. Any other questions in revenues? If not, we'll move into expenditures. We'll see that total number there coming in on revenues at 46.9% of the 101. Which we, as we stated there, we're in about 58% of the year, physical year, so numbers look pretty decent. Any questions on the revenues? I'm on the expenditure side of the 101. If I'm going too fast, just tell me slow down. If not, the next page, this is what we got.
Right, this is your sheriff's salaries.
I had asked, Ms. Amy to include, sort of like we were looking at the EMS piece. We'll keep hearing that overtime conversation come up. So this has got the sheriff's salaries and those overtime pieces that are coming up our way. If we will remember, part of that overtime is due to a measure of how the wage system, I guess is what we can call it at this point, is set up so that overtime comes out on holiday pay on those pieces. So it does appear to be higher amounts of overtime. I did ask a little bit, and I understand we're still understaffed a little as well.
From what I understand, patrol has 3 open positions. There's 1 employee out on leave. And jail also has 3 open positions, but I believe he hired in those 3 this week
At the jail.
at the jail.
I think the 3 open positions on patrol, those are the 3 that were created still in the last year, or is that 3 additional?
I do not know.
I know those 3 have not been hired because I asked about that. So it may be 3 plus those 3. At this point in time, I'm not sure of that. To be honest
I
with you.
wouldn't say it's 6 open, it's the 3
3 total,
positions.
so it's the 3 positions that were. And I know Sheriff mentioned that they've got some individuals that were trying to get into the officers training. Mr. Greer, you may know the name. I've lost this name there, but I'm trying to come up with officer training school.
Yeah.
Academy, Officer Academy, Police Academy. Should be able to come up with that one. Nice movie, watched years ago. But as we are talking about that, he said now that the state is paying, I asked Sheriff Russell where those were at. He said that the state is paying for all these SROs. Then they are just completely overloaded with the number that's there. So it's been hard to get individuals into the academy. So But anyway, there's those breakdowns. Any questions on page 11, which is the breakdowns of those overtime expenditures? They have been ticking up, as we noticed. Some other reasons. He also mentioned the jail, as you'll notice, is a whole lot of the overtime pieces. And the sheriff we've asked to keep up with, I have not seen those numbers. The amount of time and cost to traffic inmates back and forth for trial return. That is a part of that jail piece that we're seeing. He's mentioned multiple times having to go longer distances, and multiple individuals on those calls.
I think they have to go today. They have criminal court, and I think they have to go several places today.
It's pretty heavy, yes, is what he keeps telling me on that part. If you'll ask the sheriff about where that's going, it's quite heavy, the amount of traffic that, and when I say traffic, the amount of time they're having to go and bring individuals back and forth. That are, become Trowser County's inmates when something happens at trial return. So. But we will try to include this piece just so we can keep our eyes on this going forward. Moving to page 12, which is moving into your 111, urban services. Revenues and expenditures are all on page 12.
So we're concerned about our revenue here on this.
I guess they're gonna come in February, it looks like, right? That property taxes are gonna roll in, or,
Well, also remember 679,000 is the multimodal grant, and we have barely started that project. So that's going to skew your number quite a bit.
that's a third of the 1.8 million roughly there then. So that would make sense. Line, 44,130, am I looking at right now, 46,490, sorry. My eyes might be a little sleepy. Is roughly a third of that total revenue budgeted, so that would definitely throw those numbers off. However, we generally see, and it's something to keep in mind, I know we're seeing 70, 80%, and I should have mentioned this a minute ago on property tax. Remember, property tax is budgeted at a rate of about 92%. So we won't see 108 roughly or so percent, so that we got those pieces came in. We hope for everybody to be paying their taxes and keeping their properties up to date is what we're saying at this point. So it's budgeted at 92%. We have ran 107, 108 last year. I think maybe even 100, 112, something like that next year, if I remember looking back at some of last year's by this time, or by the next month, actually. So we'll see what next month looks like. No questions on page 12. We'll move to page 13. Which is your solid waste. Course, there again, your ARPA contributions, there's the word I'm looking for. Well, I'm telling you, I'm a little sleepy, I'm sorry. 48,130, which is the vehicles, that were purchased. I think the truck, we were told at Public Works last month. Yes. So that line item will be spent, I assume, at some point.
Well, I will write that check this week.
Right,
Yep.
so in other words, that will show a little bit different towards our numbers there. But again, that's 40% or so of that total revenue, budget revenue. Any questions otherwise? Moving on, 118. I would like to bring your attention in to 118, that line item, 169, which is in the, what's that in, that'd be 5,000, 5,500, 169. Right,
55, 130, 169.
55, 130, 169, a breakdown of that 160 of 130. If you remember, we put that line item in as, part-time personnel that could be, brought in for some of the overtime issues from last year. Remember, those individuals are not on our insurance, they don't have as much cost to have that individual there with us. Might be in our best interest, in my opinion here. We put 26,000 there up front. As you'll notice, line item 131, which is, salaries, for medical personnel. It's not a full staff, so that's budgeted on a full staff. We can pretty much tell at this point, we're not gonna be forced that amount of money at this time. I think it'd be I would entertain a motion there to, move some additional funds into that 169 out of 131, if that be, in anyone's interest here as well.
I can make that a budget amendment for next month,
Okay,
if you want to do it that way.
can we do it here now or not?
But you can, I don't have the paperwork for commission, but that's. Six
Is it
more.
gonna run out this month? How fast is it moving?
See, that's the other question.
I kind of leave that in this area. We can see what is spent. We put 26,000 in there at the beginning of this budget year. It's at 4,800 current balance left over in there. At the rate it's spending, it might be in our interest to put, either way, what we move into that is still gonna be sitting in 118 at the end if there's leftover. So it's not gonna be spent out of revenues, or out of medical personnel, because of all the jobs are not full, so. It's just money inside, transferred to a different line so that money can be spent in those jobs. Okay. Let's decide that amount, and then we'll get a budget amendment that way through Miss Amy. So what do y'all think? I'll take anybody's opinion there.
Halfway through the year, you start with 26.
Fair.
Maybe 30,000.
Well,
Maybe give it 30,000.
you're saying make it a total of 30,000, move 4,000?
30. Take 30 from one line to the other.
Take 30,000 from 131 and move it into 169?
That's giving more than what they've used so far, so it should be a good year.
Should finish the year in that route. Does that seem favorable with,
I'll second that motion.
in a motion to make a budget amendment to go that route? Everybody hear that part? That Finance Committee is asking Miss Amy to make us a budget amendment to move $30,000 from 131 to 169. That motion has been made and seconded. Is everyone clear with what it is? Any discussion further? Remember, that is inside their funds is all we're talking about. It just allows that money to be paid on a part-time employee. PRN, if you hear that conversation come up.
Is it not the department head's job to ask us to move their money around?
Possibly a case, but we created that position for trying to. We created that line item in this budget for a hope of not getting the overtime issues we had last year. And it appears to be giving us some success. So, if they're going to continue to hire those individuals, in my opinion, it's best for us to have that amount of money sitting there. As I said, we're not taking money from anywhere. So that's, just make sure we're all clear on that. It's not removing money that's there. It's just money that's not going to be spent.
If he would have a better idea how much. Just saying. I just think he needs to be part of the discussion. That's my.
I point well taken, and I'll take your point and move from there. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion as stated, let me know by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? It does pass. Any other discussions in the 118 as you're seeing? Moving us onward, no other questions? Your next one is still a breakdown of the 118. 121, page 17 is just a pass-through money, core civic money. I know there is a $300,000 fund, that's a different piece. That's not where that pass-through happens. That's a pay in a different route. 122, very much the same thing, just pass-through money. 127 is actually,
No, it's already been through committee. It already went through.
so it
committee.
already went there, we're good. Okay, so 127 is the one that went through our committee last month, if you remember, in that we had to create a line item that we were being asked by the comptroller, if I remember that correctly. We were being asked by the comptroller about where's our ARPA, what to create a line item for it, so, or a account for it. Here it is, 127 is that account. You can see where money has been spent. Any questions there? Okay, moving on. 127 again is the,
Sorry, there should be 120.
I was about to say, that's, yep, 128, please make that.
Whatever. We have POs.
Okay. So that's a start. He's he was on a year out right now, if you don't even work 3 for me. So. Yes. As we can see, there are some line items in this 128 that have been allocated in this last year's budget, but as we've learned, acquiring vehicles, is not just about getting the money there to pay for them these days. So, acquisition of that vehicle, actual, put in your hands is not gonna take place as fast as it maybe once did. Moving to the 151, which is our debt service. As I said on debt service there a minute ago, we will have that conversation next time where we'll know that that interest is rolling into this account. Any questions in debt service as it is? I mean, in 151 debt service as it is? If not. 171. This is the discussion that I was talking about. Sorry, y'all, we'll get there in a minute. The discussion earlier in the 122 that we were talking about, which was the core civic fund, that is its separate pass-through money. Here's where that $300,000 negotiated on top of property tax to the county comes to, it goes in this 171 currently. I've mentioned this before, and we'll quit mentioning it here before long, but there is only 300,000 in there, even though this has been 2 years' work. The year prior, it didn't have a set place for it to go, and that money went into the 101s. 131 highway fund.
First year it went into 151.
I misspoke on that. I quit, I second guessed myself anyway. Went into 151, not 101. Went into debt service, the 300,000. We paid off something, it sounds like. 131 highway fund, as you'll notice, continued $100,000 of that's county money. The rest of it, of his fund is budgeted through, is pretty much the gas tax. runs a very tight ship. And he's not responsible for the potholes on Highway 25. So. I've heard a little bit of complaining about those lately. Moving on, 141, general purpose schools. Any questions there? So- All right. See some folks still looking through. Are we good there? No other questions on those. I would entertain a motion to accept the cash balance and financial summaries as have been noted. Motions to approve those and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Ford, Gibbs.
I'm just
Okay.
checking.
All those in favor, let it know by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion does pass. It is favorable. We've gone through those pieces. Nice to have it on our record. All right, as we move into the next portion here, the project that never goes away. There's a hopeful, it says finalization, so that's close to that point, a $25,000 moved into hopefully finalize the streetscape project. That word there, I do want you to, and I'll say this now, but as a budget and finance committee that we're in right now, that one word in here is due to final change orders. We have a project that we're looking at currently, and we can talk a little bit about here in a minute, a jail coming our way. Those change orders, as you'll tell, that's where we decided to change something up, fix something differently. And every time that happens, an engineer is gonna get paid, multiple engineers are gonna get paid. So I just mentioned that word because I know overtime sounds ugly, but I think change orders will sound way ugly. So let's look at those pieces and be very careful with our movements forward. It's important to do our homework up front, is what I'm saying there. And be very careful not to change. I'm sure there would be those that would love us to change a lot. Looking for a favorable recommendation for this move here to finalize, hopefully, the streetscape project. Yes, it's been up a couple times. Mr. Ford,
On the motion to do,
make a motion to approve.
favorable recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion there on it?
It said should complete this. Are we going, is it gonna be complete with it?
I hope so.
There's no
I
guarantee.
have seriously have been talking with them over the past 2 weeks. This should be the final funding that we need for this project. And on a positive note, we should be getting about 55,000 back being reimbursed. So hopefully it'll offset each other. I'm just ready for this to be done. With all the changeovers in their staff over the past year, year and a half, it's been a nightmare for me. So I'm ready for it to be done.
There's no guarantee on that, Mr. Gregory.
Mr. Chairman, I did discuss this issue and another issue with Senator Hales. And he contacted VDOT and we got a response from them, maybe recently, Senator Hale helped us to get this, speed this done up.
Let's hope this moves along. It's been a project that never quit. Mr. Gregory, I think as you and I were sitting here 6 years ago or so, looking at this project, it was gonna cost about 70,000 up front. I don't think we want to see the final bill. So we will, we do have a motion and a second to approve, make this a favorable recommendation. No other discussion? All those in favor, let me know by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'm not saying I love it, but we've got to finalize it and hope we can get some money back off of it. Next one that we're gonna take, and I think actually. This should be taken together. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 of them. 3 of them. Yes, sir.
Yeah, You can do
It's just
that.
money, moving money around. Okay, these three can be taken together, tonight and as well, if we're going to go look at that tonight, or we can separate them if you wish. I'm just giving you the option. You see some, money's moving around. Got a motion to approve. Is that with all three?
Yeah.
Motion to approve all three is a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Second on that motion. All those, any discussion on that? Sorry, I like that for myself. All those in favor, let me know by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're gonna do a quick, and we'll figure out how this needs to go more in the future. The purchasing review, this is that quarterly purchasing committee. It's a subcommittee of budget and finance. Those that were voted onto this committee, were myself, Mr. Gregory, Ms. Atwood, Mr. Dennis, and Mr. Ford, that were voted on this purchasing. So those will be the one, everybody can look at it, of course, but those are the voting members for this purchasing piece, which we would vote to approve, or if we have questions, go from there. Is that clear with everybody on why and where we are? Okay.
There might be an extra one from there's an extra one. 20,000 of an extra one. Mhm.
I asked Ms. Amy that she thinks possibly the Smith County, solid waste, you'll see 35,390 in quarter 1 and quarter 2.
Because it would run a month behind. So August and September would be your first quarter, and then 3 months would be the next quarter. July would be included. That would actually be a June payment because it's running a month behind. We pay it the next month.
So there'd be 3 months on each one.
Well, so there'll be technically 4 months in your fourth quarter.
Right, but that's not on, that's not.
In your fourth quarter. In your first quarter, you're gonna have 2 months. Because that July payment's gonna be for June and it's gonna be accrued.
Y'all hear what we're talking about in that discussion in this case? Right now, Q1, quarter 1, of that payment should have been, is really just 2 months of accrued value. Cost there. That's why you see 3 months of accrued cost, on the quarter 2, or 2Q. Everybody clear? I wasn't clear up front on that one myself, so. Any other discussions through there?
Mhm. And that can be a lot of different sectors. It is non.
Mr. Ford?
One of them, Smith County jumped to 35,000.
Mr. Ford, I think the answer to that is that the first quarter, even though it says July, August, and September, is actually, only August and September on that payment, so it's 2 months. Whereas the quarter two is 3 months coverage. You actually cover the other one in your, fourth quarter of the year. So we'd catch 4 months in the fourth quarter. We can keep an eye on that this time to make sure that's the case. But that's the way, Miss Amy believes right now, that's the case.
That'd be the same in roll on. 35 and 75.
Well, Kimbrough and Dean's and normally it's Parman, but doesn't look like we've used them. We switch in between those. So 1 week we might be buying from Dean, another week we might be buying from Kimbrough.
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Do I hear a second from those members of the purchasing committee? Got a second? We will get a couple of questions answered on that as well before the next one. To be clear on that. Any other discussion from the purchasing committee on that piece? If not, those 5 members of the purchasing committee, all those in favor, let me know by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? It does pass. All right, that brings us to item 6, which, as you, the mayor laid a piece in front of us. Mayor, you want to discuss this? No.
I can just say that, this company is a highly reputable company, it's highly recommended, been in business in a long time. I talked to a couple of associates in Gallatin who've used them several times over the years. I talked to the founding member, the father, 2 sons, it's a family company. They were very thorough. Again, it's a 100-page document, so you can get into the depth of it, just see how thorough they were. But, I wanted to get it to the court as quick as possible, so you can have time to get over. Amy will be glad to email it to you, the entire report. A couple of you don't have it, but I'll get back to you. So really, I would say at this point that Spirit Architecture is basing their fee on a projection of $20 million on the jail, which is at 7%, which I think is high. Amounts to 1.4 million for the architect. And we've already gotten a couple of bills. So I'm gonna be looking for some guidance from this committee as to how involved we get early on. Kind of wrote that thing in because in all the discussions I've had with other county commissioners and other mayors, these projects can get out of hand really quickly. And at some point in time, we probably want to be thinking of a project manager who works for us to see every invoice and head off change orders and all those things, because it will have to be managed very, very closely to keep the cost. Evan White, who did the structural engineering report on it, has not given me a written document yet, but he's been in the building, and we'll have that before next week on the integrity of the building. The age of the roof, how many more years we got in the roof on the main part. Structure, it's a steel structure building. Any questions? That's kind of where we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. Something as we look in front of us, depending on how the pieces go in the future, we've seen some numbers somewhere in the range of between 4% and 5% currently on an interest rate on whatever the project here cost is. At where we're looking, I think, and this all hinges on where the commission decides to go with this piece in this project in terms of land acquisition and things of that nature. But as we're looking at that piece, it appears more favorable if the land is purchased up front and moving that way, that we take out one of those loans as an availability piece, and then look at the project, which I think we said would be ready sometime in December, if I understand that correctly. The last time we've heard, we would have a map, a drawing, the full scale of where it's going. in terms of what it's gonna look like if the project moves forward with the current property that's being presented. So there's a lot of things that this committee is gonna have to decide upon and look at. Money has got to be available to pay for either way we go here. So funds have got to be acquired and ready. So as we're looking forward, I think it might be in the interest, we're very fortunate, in my opinion, to have Mr. Dennis with us. And his knowledge of the banking system and how that piece lays out. I appreciate his ability to do those pieces. It might be in our interest, and I've seen this, as we look forward to even think about, asking Mr. Dennis, as to be our liaison maybe to this committee, as we might say, setting in on those discussions and finances when things go forward. See an issue with that. I know we've done that in some past committees I've been on, but maybe not about money.
You're sitting in on the financial pieces when it relates to doing
The jail,
the actual jails.
Mhm. jail land acquisition, the whole,
You can create a special committee for them, if you needed to. I'm not using the correct terminology, but there was, you have the authority to create a special committee for that. And you can, put Mr. Dennis on that. And I think, and maybe else you wanting on that, doesn't necessarily have to be county commissioners.
Right.
In order to exercise the overview of that.
in terms of the project or in terms of the just money side of things.
Either one or both.
Mr. Dennis?
Mr. Chairman, I greatly appreciate the confidence that you have in. There's people that's forgotten more than I'm told. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Would be my only culture.
Appreciate that. Certainly, but I have confidence that you would have the county's best interest in mind as we're looking at the numbers. I think when you go to talk, when I'm in a negotiation, I want to have a little bit of upper hand over who I'm negotiating with. And some of that's negotiations as we've done. And when you speak the right language in the negotiation, it gets people a little bit more, I got to actually be on my P's and Q's. And we found that out in the project with the school when we learned that there were multiple options, and that came from you. So I appreciate you. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal, but I do think you have the best interest of the community, this community in your mind. So we may look at how I wanted to bring it out tonight. I should have kind of told you I was gonna bring that out, but you might have said no beforehand. So as we look at it, I think it we may need to look at where we want to go with that piece, but I certainly hope if the available time is available for you, that you can sit in on those meetings when we talk finances and actually getting the loans acquired. So we really truly know what we're getting, and maybe we can make some individuals with those loans rest a little uneasy with what they're presenting. Be on their P's and Q's, I guess is what I'm saying. I hope that didn't come as a surprise to anyone. I think Mr. Dennis is very capable of looking at those pieces and has the community in his best interest. So we'll look at it going forward. I know I did bring that piece out, and it's something I think we need to think about as a commission. We can't all be listen, folks, we can't all be in the meeting each time when it's coming up with those every time about money in those pieces. I'm sure and I've lost his name right now. It's hard for me to pronounce.
Krasinski.
Say it again.
Krasinski.
Krasinski.
Uh-huh.
All right, I probably butchered it. I hope I didn't. I'm sure he has shown us to be very available. I think if you'll remember, he answered a phone call in the middle of a meeting one night and was willing to talk this discussion right there. So I think he will be available to us, but there's a lot of pieces that are coming our way. I won't lie and say I've said on this discussion, this is a lot of money we're talking about looking forward to this community. And we need to be very careful that we're being the best stewards of what we've got in front of us either way that this goes. And I'm not just talking about for this property, I'm talking about for this project. It's very important. So at this point in time, we're talking about financing of the options for the holders of the property. I have, like I said, with Mr. Krasinski has mentioned somewhere in that 4 to 5% range on this $5 million roughly piece that we're sitting here on. So that's a, you know where we are, and let's just be honest, up front, the only funding mechanism we currently have to fund that piece. Don't forget, there's 300,000 coming in. It can do a part of it. But the other funding mechanism is property tax. So we will be talking some numbers that may not be comfortable for a little bit of time. Just honest, it's got to be paid for. Whatever we're looking at here has got to be paid for. So let's don't let that be a surprise. I don't want to hit you in the face and say, oh, wait a minute, where's this coming from? Why are we talking a property tax hike? People are not gonna like a property tax hike. We understand that. But we need to be very clear on what we're spending and why we're spending it. That's what we've got to be upfront. I don't want to just be surprised. Hey, here comes those pieces. So I think that's about all we really need to discuss financial wise at this time. In terms of that, we need to know where we're going next month. That discussion could be drastically different next month. So let's see where that moves as we go on. Mr. Ford.
I've talked to probably 30 people. I've yet to talk to one person who wants to do this. And I look at every option I can think of when I get into something like this.
Mr. Ford, hang on a second. I'm gonna stop you here at this point. That's why I say that. We're talking about financial options, and that discussion is next week. We're not talking about buying the property. I'm not talking about, I didn't say for this property, so I've been very clear on that. And I appreciate you and respect who you are, but I don't want to go into that discussion now. It's not part of this meeting, is all I'm saying. Of this property, not that property. It's not part of this meeting. In terms, we have, in front of us, you were presented as finance. Here's what one piece of the puzzle that the mayor presented. Here's the appraisal for the property. That's all we've been presented at this point in time. I'm talking and looking at the fact, I know it does say financing of the holder's property. We can change the term to financing of the jail property if we need to do that in the future. But it is talking about property for the jail project that we're looking at. Is that fair for next week? Okay, thank you, sir. I do respect you. I figured that would be the case, but I think you'll say it twice is what I was figuring. So, I figured you'd say it twice, sir. So as we move on with that part there, I don't want to have a discussion here in this meeting about that property. That's not what we're here discussing. Like I said, if we need to change the term there from the holder's property to land acquisition, folks, we're gonna have to come up with money to purchase land wherever this goes. So I'm trying to show you that we're looking at this as clear as we can look at it.
Basically, you got one choice.
We gotta look at property. So, right,
And so what you got right now.
well, we can have that talk, that property tax, right?
Months ago.
Well, that's where we'll be looking at some really interesting discussions in the very near future, is what I'm saying. That's why it's been on here the last 2 months, if you've noticed. Folks, yes, discussions have to be made, and we sit in a position that we have to look at some of those pieces. That's the only reason I mentioned Mr. Dennison. Didn't mean to call him out, but I do trust that he has the best interest of the community in his pieces, and he knows the banking system very well from discussions I've been able to hear him speak with. So at that point, is there any other discussion before finance tonight? Hopefully, we're not getting my bills for the courthouse. We need to end it, okay? If y'all heard what I said hopefully we don't get any additional bills for the courthouse, you know? At least
Yeah, that would-
we're moving on with some, let's end with some fun. If not, any public comment? Mr. Krieger?
Chief, couple of questions, I guess. The first one, the 118 budget agreement that y'all blew out.
Yes, sir.
The year to date, Commissioner, I feel it was 21,000. The month today was about half that total. Do we know why that 1 month jumped up so much?
I might speak one piece of this. I can answer. I can't answer all of that, but I can speak to this part of it. We created that line item early on in the July agenda, and that line item was not funded in that agenda. We didn't put any money into it at that time, so it didn't get used until, if I'm not mistaken, August or September. We put money in it later on in that piece.
Okay.
And I could be missing something there, but I know it wasn't originally funded. We moved money into it at that time.
Okay.
I don't know why 1 month was so.
That I do not know about the month expenses. I would have
Okay.
to look at or we would have to look at the schedule from Mr. Beatty to see who was used.
Okay. Like I said,
We can get that piece for you though.
okay,
We'll have that month to month and who was, not necessarily who was, but why did that 1 month go where?
right,
Mhm.
okay, and the,
Was that the month of Christmas? Was that, was there a reason that people were off? I don't know.
okay, the second thing I wanted to mention is, with regards to financing options for jail property. We mentioned, property tax as a possibility. The state legislature is probably going to look at capping counties' ability to increase property tax in a year. I know a number of mayors have been on Capitol Hill. Have you been there, Mayor? And you have seen that's gonna go through?
All the county mayors yesterday, and it's looking like it will not go through. From what we said, I can think of. Except only one county mayor was really pushing, and that's the person who introduced the bill out of Anderson County. But it looked like we were feeling pretty confident.
About the,
A lot of opposition states.
about the reason I asked that, in the past couple, the past few days, I talked to two legislators outside our, not ours, who both were very much in favor of like passing that thing. So just if that happens, we're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Senator Hale came to the meeting I was in yesterday when most of the county mayors were there, and he felt good about the fact that it wouldn't pass, but he was encouraging everyone to call their congressman and the representative and the senator tell them that the majority of the county mayors are not. That would be a bad deal.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Vince. It's a conversation that we're gonna have to have.
Yep.
And we appreciate the attention to it. If not, I didn't hear any other public comments. And that we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ford got a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Non-debatable. All those in favor, let me know by stating aye. Aye. You are adjourned. I appreciate you for your time.